All right, good morning, everybody. Today is September 7th, Tuesday, pre-market planning. As always, looking at the SPY, what it's doing. It was trading kind of like sideways a little bit for a good period last week, right? Sideways, but in a bullish, in my opinion, in a bullish manner, right? Like it would gap down slightly, and then it would sell off and then gap down again, but it would kind of like rally back up. So let's take a look at a different time frame. So let's take a look at something like 5 minute, right? Like we can see here, like once the SPY makes a move up, like, these are more, to me, more significant moves that you can see, like market either going up or coming down. A lot of it last week was kind of like sideways chop action where it would rebound and sell off, rebound, sell off, and things like that. Pre-market right now, it's sort of just lingering around that sideways action. So it's for me, it's been sort of like a wider range type of trading within the market, a few points every day, but it is on a bullish uptrend in my opinion. Okay, like I'm just looking at it, I think it's going to have more upside potential. But key levels, I'm still watching. Obviously, it's going to be 453s, like 425.50s, just around this general area right here for it to hold, right? So this is like the level that's been tested as resistance, some support, right? Once a resistance support-ish area, right? So same thing. It's just kind of like keep trading around this area, this general area here. That's significant enough, right? Like in a sense that, once it can't break over, but once it breaks over, it becomes support. And then once it breaks down that level, it's kind of like, keeps kind of like magnetically coming back to this general area, right? So anyways, that's going to be like a key area that I'll be looking for the under that, and I'm going to be extra, like a little bit more careful on any long positions. Over that, I'm looking for more rallies, right? So essentially that's what it is, right? So yeah, that's the SPY. Lots of things gapping up this morning. Let's take a look at a couple tickers really quick. LEXX. Right, so there's news around this, right? So news on this is that the shares of this company is trading higher after the initial results on, I believe it's don't even remember which phase, but it's a study on its human clinical studies for Dehydratech, I guess is one of their products. Didn't read into the exact details too much. However, I think the key level that I'll be looking for on this stock is right around here, the 735, 740s, maybe even like 750 area, this range, right? So for this to reclaim. Obviously, this is one of the stronger ones that was holding in pre-market when I was making this plan. And it was still kind of like holding the uptrend, right? Like I think it started selling off around 750-ish, right? And then started kind of coming back down, and there was this really big red candle that kind of made it look like it's kind of like dying, but it's still holding. In my opinion, it's still holding really nicely. $7 is going to be my line in the sand. Under this, there's no more possibilities for any long, in my opinion, just to be extra safe, right? Because again, $7 from daily level. So that's going to be a line in the sand. But key level is going to be the 730s. Okay, upside potential. You're going to have your pre-market highs, right around this 810. So if we look at the daily on this, we know that it's a recent bag holder chart. Okay, so we've seen it multiple times where it spikes, right, and then it sells off, right? Spikes, sells off on this high volume days. Keep in mind, right? 48 million traded on this day, and you get like 53 million traded around this day, right? So, and if you guys ask where did I get $7 from, it's basically, it's been on, like these levels have been on my charts, right? So $7 is a significant level. Right? It's been touched multiple times as far as being a resistance, being a support during this time frame, right? Some support here broke down, became a resistance, right? So 7 is going to be lying in the sand. If it goes back, crosses back under, just careful on your longs, okay? Don't back hold them. So we know that the natural tendency of this chart, right, like historical trades, right, pops and fades, basically. So leaning a little bit more short bias on this, more bearish. Ideally, pops up to maybe like 10s for a better short, right? But just looking at the daily and analyzing it, recent back holders, right? So just be extra careful not to outstay your welcome on the longs, right? Upside to the 730s, You're gonna have 810s, maybe even 850s right around this red line area, and potentially even like nines, right, like mid nines. But I think the better short would be like on the higher 10 side, like 1050, 1060s would be the best, right? Downside, again, you're gonna have your $7 line in the sand. Crosses that, you're gonna have potential to hit down to like $6, maybe even 640s. I'm not sure if it's going to fade all the way back down to like the fives today, but there's just a lot of support, a lot of congestion around this area, right, for it to break down $6. So that would be the LEXS is still kind of holding right now in pre-market. Hopefully it doesn't die out. Give us a nice run, maybe a pop again to tens, and see if it can get like a nice short opportunity off of that from the back holders on the daily chart. So yeah, we'll keep an eye out for that. Right now, it's still kind of lingering around the key level. We're going to need a lot of volume to pour in as well. Okay, that's for LEXS. Next, we have RNXT. Oh, one thing about LEXS, I do want to talk about this one too. It is a low float. I think it's like 4 million float ish. So there is a potential for it to run. So I'll keep an eye out for that, right? I don't want to short too early, so keep that in mind. It's gonna be it's a low float stock, so just watch how it trades first before kind of jumping in, right? Next is RNXT, right? RNXT. Okay, faded a little bit since the planning time, but okay, same thing here. If we're looking at this, it's a little bit more of a newly IPO chart, right? But also it's kind of like bag holder in a sense that it ran on this day from 7s all the way to 16s, and then really didn't have any follow through, right? We're gonna look at the intraday chart on this day, but what this run was, it was running towards the end of the day, right? And then the next day, not a lot of follow through and just kind of like sold off from there since then, right? And the news on this today is that it's received some 510 clearance for one of its products targeted for I believe it's treating tumors. I'm not sure if it's cancer tumors, but yeah, so that's the news around it. Looking at this on the intraday chart, the key level is going to be around this. For me, it's going to be around this area right here, the solid line, 1160s, right? I wanted it to hold, and we can see that even in pre-market, it was a support and now it's becoming a resistance area, right? So this is going to be a key area for it to be bullish. It has to kind of cross this over and hold for us to have more continuation upside. And this also coincides with a level within the shorter time frame, right? If we're looking at this on this day, this is a 5-minute chart, by the way, with no pre-market or after hours data. But if we're looking at intraday, again, this is a day where it ran, right? It ran from like 7s, spiked into close. Didn't have much follow through. The next day, it just kind of like started selling off and faded from there ever since, right? And again, that 1160s area was a support on that day where it faded. And once it's kind of like crossed down below that, it never even attempted, to come back near it to retest it, right? So that's going to be the key level in pre-market. So if we're looking at the pre-market chart again, right, this key level, key area. Upside to that, we have, obviously, something right here in the pre-market, like some 1260, 1280s, some swing area, I would say, like, some resistance. And then you have your pre-market highs, 1350s, right? Potentially running up to like 14s, 1450s or so. Obviously, the higher the better for the short on this. Again, it's going to be your back holders, right? So let's go on this one. Your back holders on this day that ran up, that hasn't had a chance to get out yet, right? So 1450s, right around this support that it had, might be a resistance. But obviously, if you want to short it, this would be a better area, safer area to get in, right? Because if you're shorting earlier on from like 12s, right, 13s, you might get squeezed another dollar up, right? So if it could go to like 14s, you're risking off like the all-time high 1670s. Like, it's a wider risk, but again, low caps, high risk, high reward, right? So just plan accordingly in terms of like how you want to position yourself into those. And keep this in mind. I think this is a micro float. I forgot if it's like a little over 1 million on float. So this thing could run further than we think, right? So just if you're looking to stop out small, like tight stops and re-enter, just follow your plan, right? And also size in accordingly. Don't go too big in the beginning. Make sure the price action reflects this trading. So keep that in mind. And downside support below that, key level right here. Downside support, you're going to have obviously this pre-market swing low, 1070s, right? And 1030s, 960s, previous day high like 2 days ago, right? Some significant level. And it could potentially go back to like nines, maybe like right here, like low nines, high eights, right around here, right? Right now, still lingering around this key level. Again, over it would be what I would look for potential long. If it's under, I wouldn't even try to play dips on this, right? Because of historically, even on this day, if you're trying to play dips, it just kind of kept fading down, right? Had like one nice dip around here, gave about a point move, but other than that, everything else just very like sell-offs, right? So that's that. So that's RNXT. Again, it's a very low float, so just keep that in mind. It could move really violently, right? So very volatile, very volatile. All right, that's that. Next one is going to be LCID, Lucid. Okay, had a nice 3-day kind of like rebound from basically the the lockup expiration on the pipes, like the private investors, right? So they were potentially selling off most of their shares. So I had a nice rebound back. It's doing a gap fill right now, so I'm using that as my key level, that 1990s, right? So this area is going to be the key level, right? Over that gap fill. Again, if we're looking at daily, over this gap fill, it could continue to hold. If it continues to hold right here, it could have potential to run back up, maybe potentially back up to like the 200 SMA, right? Like the 21s, 22s. Again, it's just acting as a magnet right now. It's pulling that stock up. I'm not saying it's going to go exactly all the way there, right? But it is a potential, right? So keep that in mind. 1990s, again, same thing as the RNXT. If it goes below that level, I'm not looking to long. It has to prove to me that it has some potential to hold itself up for sort of like a continuation move up, right? So key level, 1990s, right? This general area. If it can hold this level, I can potentially see this go back to like mid 20s, right? Like 2040, 2050s, and potentially even 21s, right? So if we're looking at a higher time frame, let's look at a 5-minute right here, right? 5-minute chart right here. If it's able to hold, kind of like reclaim that level and hold that 1990s, right? Essentially the $20 area. It has potential to push up, 2040s right around here, which is the resistance, right? And even up here, 2060, 2070s, another congested area, and even potentially up to like 21s, right? Pushing over this 21s, you're going to get, again, from the daily chart wise, your 200 SMAs right around the $22 area. For me, if you're looking for a short, I think the safest short would be, up in the 23s, like just right around, 2260, 23s would be safer, right? Because this is sort of like a swing low support, and then this acted as a resistance. So right around this general area would be a safer short if you're looking to short. Right, so somebody's talking about the float on RX and T. Yeah, so it's all over the place on that. I'm getting like low float on Flash SEC. I think that one was showing 1 point something million. RNXT, yeah, 1.6 million. So just keep that in mind. So back to Lucid, guys. Sorry. Key level is going to be right here, right? Downside, if it breaks down this area, you're going to have potential for this to run back to previous. Obviously, it's going to test prior day highs right here. It's testing that right now to see if it holds. Prior day close, right? And then you're going to have potential for this to go back down to like low, high to mid 18s, sorry, right? So right around 18.9s and potentially kind of like just retest prior close levels and so forth. Okay, looking for a first red day. Again, we're looking at daily chart wise. It's this day was considered red for the fact that it closed below prior day, right? But it still was a positive day where if in essence where it pretty much opened here and made a move up to here. So it's been up for 3 days. And and we're looking for maybe potentially a sort of like a gap fill reject, right? Meaning it's gap fill, it's rejecting now, potentially doing a first red day. So we'll see how it goes. I think once it goes red, and there's really no buying pressure coming in, it might be worth like a bounce into Friday close short type of deal. It depends how far it goes down, right? So again, have a plan for all sides of plays. If you're a long bias trader, have your plans for your long bias. For me, it's going to be over 19.9s, right, for it to be considered a long in essence. It has to also be able to hold that 19.9. It's not just like a kind of like peak over and then I'm long, right? Like it has to prove to me that it holds, right? And once it breaks down, then I'm getting ready to get out, right? So and then if you have your plans on the short side too, for me, it's like, if it rejects, if it goes from green to red, it depends how far it goes down and how it rebounds back into that to certain resistance levels for me to potentially short, right? If it just barely, again, same thing as I said earlier, if it barely peaks under to go red and then it rebounds and it holds green, I'm not going to try to short against that, right? Like it's more so I'm looking for that first red day selling pressure, right? So if it does sell off to like 1920s, 19s, and it bounces to a Friday close, it might be worth a short once it does that, right? So again, have your plans. Again, looking for the first red day potential on this one. And yeah, that's for Lucid. Yeah, made a massive move so far. So hopefully some profit taking coming in, but we'll see. We'll see. All right, and last one right here I have for today for me on watch is going to be AMC. Let's look at the daily chart. Ignore all the lines, right? Very messy, but it's levels that I keep. Yeah, it's kind of like sort of trying to go on this uptrend, right? It's made lows, slightly higher low, slightly higher low, higher lows. It's kind of like making higher lows here. It's kind of like just keep on that uptrend type of move, right? So looking for that continuation, small gap up, right? Obviously small gap up today. Key levels is going to be Friday highs. It's gapping up over the close and kind of like gapping up over that Friday highs, right? This green line right here, 44.80s. For this to hold, right? 44.80s, if it holds, I think it has potential back to like 46. Let's go 5 minutes. Right, so right now it's trading around 45s, right around here. Right, if this level is able to hold and hold over Friday highs as well, 44.80s, then it has potential to push back over to like 46, 46.60. Right, like these two levels have been tested multiple times in the last week and a half. Again, we can see it kind of like break down that level on this day. Right, breaks down this level on this day and kind of just sells off a nice $3 move. Right, comes back, retests. Of course, it peaked over that 46.60, but again, once under that, sold off again, right? Same thing, acted as resistance. I've had this 46.60s on my chart for quite some time now. If you look back a little further, it actually touched multiple times, like I think like 6 or 7 times on the daily chart. So again, I think last Friday, was it last Friday? Yeah, last Friday. I think no, this was last. Let's see here. 3 Friday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday. I think it acted as a pretty strong resistance, but once it broke over that, it acted as like some nice support, right? And again, for the fact that it pushed to 48s and broke down and came back over and tried to retest that area, it's just again pretty solid line for me in my opinion, like this general area. Right, so over your 44.80s and holding it like 45s right now. If volume does come in, I could see it potentially push back to those levels, right? Like 46.60s as potential upside. And over that, obviously we have 48s, right? So 48s, which is kind of like the Wednesday highs or when it made that run. Potentially up there as well. Downside support. So if we go back into an intraday time frame, downside support, if it breaks down, then obviously you can look for lower levels, right? 44.40s, kind of like this congestion on this day, right? 44.40s, but it could potentially go back down to 44s as well, right? Which is Friday's close. And below that, you're gonna, obviously, crack down even further, 43s maybe, right? So keep that in mind. AMC is going to give us range both ways. So just understand where you want to try to dip by potentially, and then, where you're trying to look to short. For me, probably maybe like 48s again, right? So like high 47s, 48s for a potential short. Maybe a dip down to Friday close, or maybe even mid 43s for a potential bounce. Depends how it starts off in the morning once the market opens. But I think AMC is going to give us range both ways, either way. So just make sure you have a good plan and a solid plan around that for now, and then trade around that plan, right? So no specific bias on it. Again, obviously just waiting to see what it does and how it trades. And then aside from that, a couple key watches, right? Obviously Friday's MDV key level for me is going to be around 500. I'll be looking at that. ZM as well, match, MTCH, right? So all of those. ZM key level 300, MTCH key level 160.